There are currently 3 lawsuits against IBM and their subsidiary Red Hat for pursuing DEI-related discriminatory practices against their employees. Well, there were 3 lawsuits against IBM. One of them, Missouri v. IBM, has just been dismissed by a Democrat-appointed judge who has a focus on equity. And in the ruling, where this judge just completely dismissed it, it's not going to trial, there was only one sentence. It was literally a 1-sentence ruling where absolutely no explanation was given as to why this case was being dismissed. It's insane. It's insane. Luckily, there are 2 other lawsuits against IBM and Red Hat for all of their DEI-related discrimination. And those 2 trials, they have Trump-appointed judges, and at least one of them is moving to trial. So a little bit of background. Missouri v. IBM, right, was filed by the Attorney General of Missouri, a Republican. And it was filed against IBM specifically in relation to all of the leaks that came out showing how IBM specifically discriminated based on race against their employees. This is a little couple of quotes from the lawsuit. Racial quotas violate Chapter 213 of the revised statutes of Missouri, which protect applicants and employees from unlawful discriminatory practices. Racial discrimination is invidious in all contexts, and then it provides multiple examples of other cases where that's found. Outright racial balancing is patently unconstitutional, where that was found in quoting Fisher v. the University of Texas at Austin. And quote, no one, not even IBM, can lawfully desire some specified percentage of a particular group merely because of its race or ethnic origin. And this was absolutely a slam dunk lawsuit from the factual perspective, because IBM is on record as pursuing race-based discrimination. They have documents, public documents, private documents, emails from their executives, and videos from both the IBM CEO and the Red Hat CEO that are not being disputed in any way, where they flat out state, yes, they have race-based quotas, yes, they're pursuing them, and yes, they punish their executives who don't meet those quotas. This all started back in December 11th of 2023 with leaks of the IBM CEO that showed that IBM withheld bonuses from executives who failed to meet race-based hiring quotas. So in other words, if an executive did not discriminate enough, they were punished monetarily. And that IBM, he stated in the video, the CEO of IBM stated on camera that IBM had already fired people for refusing to discriminate. They fired people, and he bragged about it, right? And so this was a slam dunk case. The Lunduke Journal continued to post all sorts of leaks from whistleblowers with inside IBM over the roughly month that followed. It was off the charts, including a video from the Red Hat CEO, which is a subsidiary of IBM, where he stated flat out that Red Hat and IBM had a goal of 30% black candidates for their positions, and if those goals aren't met, other documents showed that the executives were punished. It was crazy. It was off the charts. It was an easy case, and even if Missouri did not win the case against IBM, there was so many facts and so much evidence of real material harm being committed against employees that it obviously should go to trial. Like, it was just, even if you think, oh no, there's no way IBM can lose this, DEI is wonderful, discriminating against people based on race is great and it should be legal, even if you think all of that, there was enough here for it to obviously go to trial. On February 10th of this year, and this is really just coming out in the last couple of weeks, the court granted IBM's motion to dismiss in a one-sentence order without any explanation or reasoning. One sentence. That is something you never ever see. You never, in this sort of highly politicized court case where there are so many laws involved, and we're talking about it being filed by the state of Missouri's Attorney General. If the company says, yeah, you should totally dismiss this case because we should be totally fine discriminating against people because racism is awesome. If that was, I'm paraphrasing, but that was roughly IBM's argument. The judge just simply said, okay, dismissed. did not cite any relevant court cases, did not cite any precedent, did not cite any laws, just said dismissed and moved on. One sentence, dismissed it, nothing. It was crazy. I mean, you don't see this sort of thing. And this particular judge is David L. Vincent III. He's a circuit court judge there in Missouri with a focus on, according to the Your Missouri Judges website, a focus on equity cases. Now, he seems like he's probably a good guy in other ways. It looks like he coached some high school sports teams and the like. But it's also important to note that David Lee Vincent III was appointed to be a circuit court judge back in 1997 by then Governor Mel Carnahan. Now, Mel Carnahan was a Democrat. You may remember him. He died while in office, and there was it was a big news story at the time. But he was appointed by a Democrat. And also worth noting, David Lee Vincent III has been rated by attorneys who argued cases before him. This is a really common thing that happens. Every so often, judges are rated, right, by the attorneys that argue in front of them. So in this particular case, attorneys were asked to rate each judge, all the various judges, on 18 categories on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score, right? 276 attorneys responded because they had argued cases in front of Judge Lee Vincent. His lowest scores on the attorney survey were for, and this isn't a joke, ruling on dispositive motions state reason and consistently apply substantive law. All right, let me read that again because I absolutely butchered that sentence. Ruling on dispositive motions state reason and consistently apply substantive law. In other words, when a dispositive motion, so saying, I think this case should be dismissed. I motion that we dismiss this case, right? That's the sort of thing that just happened with IBM here. This is a judge that just says, all right, signs it, and doesn't say why, doesn't consistently apply the law, doesn't state the reason why. And then the lowest score that this judge received was for is competent in the law. So as a general rule of thumb, attorneys that argued cases in front of Judge L. Vincent III felt that he was not competent in the law. So that's pretty great. So what do we have here? We have an anti-DEI lawsuit, right? Filed by a Republican attorney general, which was dismissed without any reason given for the dismissal. None whatsoever. Not even a hint of one, right? Not a reason I disagree with, just no reason at all. By a Democrat-appointed judge with a focus on equity and who attorneys believe does not understand the law. That's pretty crazy. So I've been tracking these 3 lawsuits that are going on, including this one here, Missouri v. IBM. And this one's dismissed. As far as I can tell, it's either the appeal was denied or it's not being appealed by the state attorney general. So I've reached out to the state attorney general office and some other individuals trying to get an update to see if there was any additional plans around this. I haven't heard back from anyone yet. That's disappointing, to say the least. However, there are 2 other critical lawsuits here going on. One is known as Dill versus IBM, and the other one is Wood versus Red Hat. Now, these are cases where they are not the government suing IBM. These are past IBM employees who feel they have been wronged by IBM and discriminated against, and using a lot of the leaked material that has been published, are going after both Red Hat and IBM. Now, Dill versus IBM is the most interesting one at the moment, because as of March 26th, IBM, who followed the same playbook as they did in the other case, in the case that got dismissed, they filed a motion to dismiss the case because they're like, I love discrimination, and so we should be allowed to do it. The judge said, no, that's stupid. Motion to dismiss denied, suckers. This is moving to trial. So as of March 26th, this has moved forward to trial. Now, it's worth noting that in the case of Dill versus IBM, that judge, her name is Hala Yarbu. I'm sorry, Judge Jarbu. I pronounce everything wrong. I apologize. Hala Jarbu. She was appointed or nominated by President Trump and then confirmed by the Senate back in 2020. So she is a Trump appointed judge, and it is moving to trial before her. The other lawsuit is Wood versus Red Hat. Now, that one is in Michigan. Wood versus Red Hat is another one that's ongoing, and that one is currently essentially being delayed as much as possible by Red Hat, right? Red Hat has different attorneys than in the IBM trial, and they're just kicking the can down the road. The most recent update, and this literally is the most recent, comes from October 16th of this last year. Yeah, months ago, when Red Hat has been filing motions to compel arbitration and no decision has been made. Basically meaning Red Hat is demanding that instead of this going to trial, that they not even settle it, that they just kind of hash it out. They go into arbitration and hash it out, right? The judge behind that one, the judge that is overseeing that case, is over in Idaho, is Judge David C. Nye, and also a President Trump nominee from back in 2017. Now, what that means is there are currently 2 cases outstanding relating to DEI discrimination by IBM. One, Dill v. IBM, moving to trial. That one's happening. The other is Red Hat, Wood v. Red Hat, and Red Hat is kicking the can down the road as much as they can. Was yet to see how effective they'll be in continuing to delay that case. But both of those cases are Trump judges. Whereas the Missouri v. IBM, which was dismissed, was a Democrat judge. And it's hard to look at this and not see the obvious politics at play. A Democrat appointed judge with a focus on equity is helping essentially to run cover for the highly discriminatory, highly illegal, extraordinarily racist and sexist activities of IBM, while pushing back against anything that a Republican does, right? A Republican attorney general says, hey, IBM, stop being so racist. A Democrat judge blocks them and says, you can't even sue them for being racist. You can't even take this to trial. I won't even let you present evidence. That's what the Democrat judge is saying. The Trump judges are allowing it to move to trial, at least so far. We'll see what happens in the case of Wood v. Red Hat. I'll keep on top of that one. I am amazed it's taking as long as it has, because this has been sitting on the docket since October, November, December, January, February, March. We're now getting close to half a year since the last motion that I've seen recorded on Wood v. Red Hat. I'm keeping tabs on all of them, but I'm hoping that moves forward. Now, those sorts of delays are not entirely uncommon, unfortunately, especially depending on the total caseload of the judges, what gets filed by either party in the case. A lot of times there's built-in delays of 30 days here, 45 days there, and things just kind of start to stack up. So if a company with well-funded attorneys want to kick the can down the road, sometimes for years, that is something that can happen. Now, the Wood v. Red Hat case is interesting to me because it was the first of these cases that was filed. It was filed back in May 8th of 2024. So we are just shy of 1 month away from that case. That case's 1 year anniversary, right? So where that lawsuit is filed, and it has not yet gone to trial. The Dill versus IBM was just filed back in August, so it's a bit newer, and it's already looking like it's going to be moving to trial. I mean, unless IBM's lawyers have a few other sleeves they want to magically pull out at the last moment here to delay it a little bit. Their motion to dismiss has been denied, so it looks like it's moving to trial. We'll keep tabs on all this as it goes, and I want to put all of this in a little bit of context here, because I think it's important that these lawsuits are happening with IBM and Red Hat. They are examples. They are setting the precedent here within the tech industry for what happens if you have significant and blatant discriminatory policies, DEI woke policies against your employees. And they're not the only lawsuits. There's also lawsuits at Amazon and PayPal and etc. But these are the most direct ones, and these are the ones that I think have the most direct consequence, potentially, for the entirety of the tech industry. There's 3 lawsuits here. All 3 of them don't need to succeed in order to set an interesting precedent. Only one of them does. So there's 3 lawsuits here. One is dismissed. I don't have any hope for Missouri v. IBM being resurrected. I mean, I would love to see it. I would love to see the Attorney General over in Missouri find some way to push this through, to appeal this somehow to the higher courts. It doesn't seem like that's happening from what I've gathered. They've gone quiet on it, and it just seems like it's dead. But the other 2 are moving forward, and Dill versus IBM looks like it really has potential. The case, if it moves to trial, has so much evidence behind it. I mean, it's not a he said, she said sort of thing. It's a situation where internal corporate documents, internal leaked emails, publicly published documents, including their own website, and multiple published videos of the CEOs themselves repeatedly stating that, yes, they do illegal policies relating to their hiring and firing. It makes it hard to see how IBM can possibly mount a real defense if it actually gets to trial. And this has really been the big unknown all along in this is, are these cases going to get to trial? Especially in the case of Wood v. Red Hat and Dill v. IBM, those are individuals bringing them. And while they have, it looks like very well-intentioned law firms behind them, you know, I mean, if you're fighting against a big, giant, mega big tech company with billions in cash, it's hard to outlast them. Right? That they can literally just bleed you dry. They can nickel and dime you for years until eventually you just give up and move on with your life, right? That's a lot of the strategy behind these big companies when they talk about these lawsuits. So the Dill versus IBM and Wood versus Red Hat lawsuits are the ones that I was the most concerned about going into this. Amazingly, those 2 are in far better positions right now than the Missouri versus IBM one, which is dismissed. I thought the Missouri versus IBM one was going to have more legs. What I failed to take into account was that realistically, the judge that got assigned in the Missouri case was a Democrat appointee. And that makes all the difference. Absolutely all the difference here, because this is very much like in the ruling that just happened in Missouri v. IBM, it's not about the law, right? Clearly, because if it was about the law, it would have moved to trial. Doesn't mean that Missouri would have won or IBM would have lost. It means it would have moved to trial and evidence would have been shown and a case would have been made and a judge would have ruled. But the judge clearly had a political motive here. I mean, there's no other explanation for it. The judge didn't even say why it was dismissed. But Dill versus IBM and Wood versus Red Hat, they are moving forward. And kudos to the ex-IBM and ex-Red Hat employees for continuing to push on it. Kudos to the legal teams behind them that are helping to make that happen. It's great to see this sort of progress, and I'm hopeful that that the judges will weigh the evidence honestly and rule on them. I don't see how a judge could look at the mountain of evidence, much of which was published by the Lunduke Journal, I'm just saying, and not come away with, oh my gosh, IBM and Red Hat have wildly discriminatory and wildly illegal hiring and firing practices. So we'll see how it goes. I'll keep tabs on it. I'll only update this when there's new information to share. I've got my little lawsuit tracker going on, and there are a few other lawsuits that I'm watching as well. When there's news to share on any of those, of course I will. Thank you to the Lunduke Journal subscribers for making all of this possible, because you'll note none of this is getting covered by any other tech news outlet. Not CNET. Not The Verge or Wired or Gizmodo or The Register or any of them. They're not touching it. They're not touching any of this stuff. They're not diving deep into this stuff. They're not doing any actual investigative research and journalism around these topics. And they're not fairly presenting what's actually happening and what's actually impacting the world of tech. Because make no mistake about it, these lawsuits, these ones right there, they can have an absolutely massive impact on open source, on the enterprise computing industry, and on across the board, on all the ripple effects on AI and mainframes and everything else is massive. We're talking IBM and Red Hat here. Massive, which means that there could be a direct impact on desktop Linux operating systems because of the amount of investment that Red Hat puts into those sorts of things. The impact is huge, and it should be covered by the rest of the tech world, but it's not. So thank you to all of the subscribers to the Lunduke Journal for making it possible for us to actually cover the news. Right now, there's one of us that covers the news, and I appreciate you allowing it to be the Lunduke Journal. So go to lunduke.com, click on some links, subscribe if you can. It helps to keep us rocking. You'll notice there's no commercials in this at all. That's because of all of you. Because we take no money from big tech and run no commercials, we can say whatever we want. We can criticize IBM. We can criticize Red Hat. You'll notice all the other Brand X tech news, they can't do that. It's pretty good position we're in there. And thanks to you for making it possible. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.